Hey folks, I know I am just an old guy telling stories, but please leave a like and subscribe before we start. Let's enjoy in today's stories. So picture this. I'm just casually browsing the dark web one night, clicking around like usual, when I stumble onto coordinates from an abandoned mansion on the dark web. Yeah, I know, not the smartest move, but curiosity got the best of me. I come across this thread talking about a haunted mansion on the dark web, like some real spooky stuff. People are sharing stories about ghostly encounters and warning others to stay away. Me being me, I'm intrigued. I mean, who wouldn't want to check out a real haunted house, right? I do some digging, find out about the mansion's history, a messed up story about a rich family gone wrong, with their spirits supposedly still hanging around the place. It's like straight out of a horror flick. Next thing I know, I'm buying the coordinates to this mansion, thinking it's all just a game. I get the info, and it's in the middle of nowhere, like seriously remote. Red flags should have been waving, but I'm too caught up in the thrill of the unknown. Fast forward to me standing outside this decrepit mansion, feeling a mix of excitement and nerves. The place looks like it's been abandoned for ages. With boards on the windows and weeds taking over the yard, it's the kind of place you see in scary movies, and I'm about to walk right in. There was no place I could just enter, so I had to force my way through. I broke one of the boards on the window and I entered. I was so excited because I love being alone in an area where there is no one and looks like post-apocalyptic place. So I started to explore. There were a lot of doors and big corridors. I decided to walk straight and check those doors. In the rooms there was nothing special, just the typical stuff. Furniture, clothes, closets, mirrors, and stuff. The weird thing about all of these things is how much they looked like they were new. They seemed like someone was still living in this mansion and was keeping the floors and all the stuff clean. This is clearly another red flag that I ignored. I don't know if I mentioned, but this mansion was huge. When I say huge, I really mean it. From the outside, it looked so much smaller, but on the inside, there were so many rooms, even a basement with a couple floors. I went to the basement to explore until I found a door with no door handle. This door was so hard to notice. It was like a hidden door. The weird thing about this door is that I noticed a small word carved in the door that said, tormentum. I knew a little bit of Latin, so I knew the translation of this. If you translate it to English, tormentum means torture. This set my soul on fire. I got so excited. I must see what's on the other side of that door. So I decided to break it. I took a piece of metal and started hitting the wooden door. I tried kicking it, but it was such a durable door, like it was made to keep something inside. I was trying to open this door for about 2 hours, and finally I did it. I made a small hole and managed to open it somehow. It looked just like a regular room, but there were no windows, no furniture, no clothes. There was nothing. The room was pure white. Just white. Nothing more. It looked really weird. But then I noticed that the sound in the room was different. When I say sound, I mean it was such a quiet room. You could hear your heart pumping blood. After about 2 minutes, I started to hear my blood flowing through my veins. This scared me, so I ran out straight away. I was scared now, but I decided to look around outside that white room to see if there is something I could find. And I did. I found some old documents. They were research papers. On the first paper it said, Test Subject 001, Name, Jake M. Age, 32, Gender, Male. First day, the subject is kept in the room for a whole day. The first minute, nothing was happening. After 2 minutes, the test subject could hear his heart pumping blood. After 5 minutes, the test subject could hear his blood flowing through his veins. After 7 minutes, the test subject was begging to go out of the room. After 9 minutes, the test subject was having hallucinations. The paper was all ripped and you could barely see all of the text written, but on the end it said, after a whole, the test subject lost its sanity. There were a lot of this kind of papers about test subjects. There was a whole archive. Someone was doing illegal experiments here for sure. I decided not to stay too much in here. As I was going out, I heard a door opening and someone talking. I quickly hid it in a closet. I heard some people talking, and they were talking about me. They said my name, my address, and everything. I thought my heart stopped. When I heard that, I thought I was done. My heart was beating so fast and my breathing was getting a lot faster. I could not control it. So in panic, I just run straight out of the closet and just run. The people that were talking about me noticed me. I saw them holding a walkie-talkie, and I clearly heard what they said. Capture the test subject ASAP. In that big mansion, I was already lost. I did not know where I was or where I was going. I just ran. So somehow I found the window I came from and run straight outside. I quickly hid it in the weed and started to go away from the mansion, but they saw me. They fucking saw me. They started running after me. They even had dogs. I ran straight through the small forest. I just ran and ran. I tripped on a small branch, broke my wrist. The pain was nothing compared to how scared I was and how much my adrenaline was up. Somehow I managed to get to a road. A car passed and I just stopped it. I said, I broke my wrist. Please take me to the city so I can go check it out. The man that was driving the car said, do not worry where I will take you. You won't need a hospital. After all, you will be dead in a few days. When I heard that, I knew he was working with the people that were after me, so as he was driving, I just punched him and turned the wheel. We crashed. Luckily, I wasn't injured too much. But on the other side, neither was he. He grabbed me and I bit his hand, and I punched him in the nose. I was training martial arts for a few years, so I knew the knockout points of the human body. I managed to knock him. I took him out of the car and took the car. I drove to the closest city I found. I dumped the car because it could be tracked maybe. I don't know. The first thing I did was get help for my wrist, and then I had some money left, so I quickly changed my clothes. To be even safer, I even cut my long hair I grew out for years. Update. This story happened 2 months ago. Since then, I am constantly moving around. New town every day, new city every week, new country every month. I am still on the run. I do not know if those people are still after me, but I know one thing for sure: if they try to come after me this time, I will be ready, and I will give them the hell they are looking for. So, let me tell you about this crazy thing that happened to me. I was bored one night scrolling through the web when I stumbled onto the dark web marketplace. Yeah, I know, not the smartest move, but I was curious. I found this game listed there. Something about it caught my eye. It promised the super immersive experience like nothing I'd ever played before. So, without really thinking it through, I bought it. When the game arrived, I was excited to try it out. But as soon as I started playing, things got weird. The graphics were way too realistic, and the sound effects were creepy real. As I got deeper into the game, I started noticing weird stuff happening around me, like things in my room would move on their own, or I'd hear strange noises that shouldn't be there. Then came the nightmares. I'm talking about vivid, messed up dreams that felt way too real. I'd wake up freaked out, but I couldn't shake the feeling that something was off. The more I played, the more obsessed I became. I'd spend hours and hours in front of the screen, losing track of time. My friends started noticing that I wasn't myself anymore. I was withdrawn, paranoid, always on edge, but I couldn't stop. The game had this hold on me, like it was pulling me deeper and deeper into its messed up world. And now I'm starting to realize that my social life is pretty much non-existent. I'm stuck in this never-ending nightmare, and I don't know how to get out. So, after I got deeper into the game, things started getting really messed up. Those nightmares I mentioned before, they got way worse. Like waking up screaming kind of worse. And it wasn't just in my head. I'd see weird stuff happening around me too, like things moving on their own or hearing creepy whispers. I tried to brush it off, but the game had this hold on me that I couldn't shake. It was like it was studying me, learning my fears and messing with my head. And the more I played, the more I felt like I was losing touch with reality. My friends and family noticed something was off, but I couldn't bring myself to tell them what was really going on. How do you explain that a stupid game from the dark web is ruining your life? The game itself got darker as I progressed. The challenges felt more sinister, like they were designed to mess with my head. And then it started blurring the lines between the game and real life. I'd see characters from the game in random places, or I'd lose track of time completely. I wish I could say I found a way out, but I'm still stuck in this nightmare. The game has taken over, and I don't know how to break free. It's like my social life is gone, replaced by this twisted game that won't let me go. So, as time went on, stuff just got crazier. I started seeing things like figures from the game popping up when I least expected it. And the voices, I swear, I'd hear whispers in the dead of night, like someone was calling my name from the shadows. Sleep became a joke. I'd have these messed up nightmares that felt so real, I'd wake up thinking I was still in them. And during the day, I'd catch myself talking to characters from the game, like they were standing right there in front of me. My friends and family noticed I was acting weird, but I couldn't tell them what was really going on. How do you explain that a stupid game has taken over your life and your sanity? I tried to quit, to delete the game and move on, but it was like I was addicted. Every time I tried to walk away, something would pull me back in. Then, one night, I got this message from the game itself. It was like it was taunting me, giving me a choice, surrender or fight back. But with everything going on, I didn't know if I had the strength to fight anymore. So, things kept getting crazier with this game. It felt like I was losing my grip on reality. Nightmares were constant, and I couldn't tell what was real anymore. I tried to quit, but it was like I was addicted. The game had this hold on me that I couldn't shake. My friends and family noticed something was seriously wrong, but I kept pushing them away. Then one night I hit a breaking point. I couldn't let the game control me anymore. I made a choice. I deleted it, and it was like a weight lifted off my shoulders. It wasn't easy, and I knew I'd still have to deal with the aftermath. But at least I took back some control. I lost a lot because of that game, but I didn't lose everything. And that's something to hold on to as I start picking up the pieces. After getting rid of the game, things didn't magically go back to normal. It took a while for the nightmares to ease up, and even then, I still had to deal with the aftermath. Fixing my relationships wasn't easy. I had shut out a lot of people while I was obsessed with the game, and earning back their trust took time. Some got it, others struggled to understand what I had been through. I started therapy, which turned out to be a big help. Talking about everything with a professional helped me sort through the mess in my head and find healthier ways to cope. Gradually, life started to feel more normal again. I learned to enjoy simple things like hanging out with friends, going for walks, and doing stuff I actually liked. The whole experience taught me a lot. I swore off the dark web for good and made sure to share my story as a warning to others. While I'll always carry the memories of that dark time, I'm grateful for the chance to move forward and appreciate the good things in life. Okay, so here's the deal. I got curious about the dark web one night. You know, that sketchy part of the internet where people do shady stuff. I'd heard all kinds of crazy stories about it, so I figured, why not check it out? I ended up on this forum where people were chatting about their experiences on the dark web. It felt like stumbling into a secret club or something. I joined the conversation, asking questions and sharing my thoughts. Now here's where I messed up big time. I forgot to turn off my webcam. Yeah, I know, total facepalm moment. I was so into the discussion that I didn't even realize my webcam was on, recording everything I was doing. Next thing I know, people on the forum started posting screenshots of me from my webcam. They were making fun of me, saying I was an idiot for not noticing my webcam was on. It was embarrassing as heck, but it didn't stop there. Those screenshots started spreading all over the dark web. Suddenly, I was everywhere, and not in a good way. People were guessing who I was, where I lived, and it was just creepy. I felt completely exposed. like my privacy was ripped away. And to make things worse, I started getting messages from random people. Some were threatening, others were just plain creepy. It was like I was being targeted by the worst of the dark web. I couldn't shake off the feeling of being watched, of being judged by strangers who knew way too much about me. It was a nightmare that I couldn't escape, all because of one stupid mistake. After that webcam incident, everything just went downhill. I felt like I was being watched all the time, like I had no privacy left. Those screenshots of me were still floating around, and it made me super paranoid. I started getting weird messages from random people online. Some were threatening, others were just creepy. It felt like they were playing mind games with me, and I didn't know how to deal with it. I tried to brush it off, but it was always there, lingering in the back of my mind. I couldn't relax, couldn't sleep properly. It was like living in a constant state of stress and anxiety. I knew I had to do something about it, but I felt so powerless. It was like the dark web had its claws in me, and I didn't know how to break free. So I reached a breaking point. I couldn't handle the stress and paranoia anymore. I needed to do something before it consumed me completely. I started by reaching out to friends and family. I told them what was going on, about the screenshots, the messages, everything. Some of them understood, but others just couldn't grasp the severity of the situation. Next, I sought help online. I found forums and communities where people shared similar experiences. It was comforting to know that I wasn't alone, that there were others who had gone through the same ordeal. I also contacted law enforcement. I wasn't sure if they could do anything, but I needed to take every possible step to protect myself. They took my report seriously and gave me advice on how to stay safe online. It wasn't easy, but slowly, I started to regain some sense of control. I learned how to better protect my privacy online, how to spot potential threats, and how to cope with the lingering fear and anxiety. It's still a work in progress, and there are days when I feel like I'm back at square one. But I'm taking it one step at a time, and I refuse to let the dark web's shadow continue to haunt me. After seeking help and learning more about online safety, I decided to confront the dark web head-on. I knew I couldn't erase what had happened, but I could take back some control over my digital life. I started by securing my devices and accounts. I changed all my passwords, enabled two-factor authentication, and installed security software to protect against malware and hackers. Next, I took down any personal information that was still floating around online. I contacted websites and platforms to remove the screenshots and any other traces of my online presence from the dark web. I also became more cautious about my online activities. I avoided shady websites and refrained from sharing too much personal information on social media or forums. But perhaps the most important step I took was to educate myself and others about the dangers of the dark web. I shared my story, warning others to be vigilant and proactive about their online security. It wasn't an easy journey, and there were moments when I felt overwhelmed and scared. But with each step I took, I got better. I'm still wary of the dark web, and I know that the scars from that experience will always be there. But I refuse to let fear dictate my life. I've learned valuable lessons about online safety, resilience, and the power of taking action in the face of adversity. So after all the chaos and stress, things eventually settled down. I focused on securing my online accounts and devices, making sure I was protected as best as I could be. I also reached out for help and support, talking to friends, family, and online communities. They gave me advice and encouragement, which helped me feel less overwhelmed. Over time, I got back into a more normal routine. I spent time with loved ones, pursued hobbies, and tried to focus on the positive things in life. The experience taught me a lot about online safety and being cautious with what I share online. I also became more aware of the potential risks of the dark web and the importance of taking control of my digital privacy. Now, I approach my online activities with more caution and awareness. It's a learning process, but I feel more confident and empowered knowing that I've taken steps to protect myself. All right, buckle up because this is one hell of a tale. It all started innocently enough, or so I thought. I was doing my usual late-night deep web browsing, just poking around the dark corners of the internet out of sheer curiosity. Little did I know that one click would lead me down a path of pure horror. As I ventured deeper into the dark web's labyrinth of illicit sites and shady forums, I stumbled upon something that made my blood run cold. It was an auction site, but this was no ordinary auction. No, this was an auction for human beings. I wish I could say I immediately recognized it as a sick joke or a twisted art project, but the details were too real, too personal. The listing had my name, my age, my location, and even details about my daily routines, things that only someone who had been watching me closely could know. My heart raced as I read through the chilling description. It was like someone had been silently observing my life, waiting for the perfect moment to put me up for sale. The shock and disbelief were overwhelming. How could this be happening? How could someone have such intimate knowledge of my life without me ever knowing? In a state of panic, I tried to click away from the page, but my cursor seemed to have a mind of its own. In my haste, I accidentally clicked on the Accept Offer button, a split-second mistake that would haunt me forever. Almost instantly, an email confirmation arrived, confirming the sale of my own self on the deep web. I was stunned, paralyzed by the realization of what I had just done. I had sold myself unwittingly to the highest bidder on the most depraved corner of the internet. The dread sank in as I realized the gravity of my situation. I was now a commodity, a piece of merchandise to be delivered to whoever had purchased me. The thought sent shivers down my spine. Frantically, I tried to backtrack, to undo the irreversible mistake I had made. But the digital tendrils of the deep web were unforgiving, ensnaring me in a web of terror and despair. And now, as I sit here recounting this horrifying ordeal, I can only hope that someone out there can help me. I sold myself on the deep web by mistake, and now I'm being hunted like some prized possession, a pawn in a game of twisted desires. The fear is suffocating, the dread overwhelming. Will anyone hear my plea for help before it's too late? After the initial shock wore off, panic set in like a vice around my chest. I knew I had to do something, anything, to escape the nightmare I had unwittingly walked into. I started by scouring the dark web for any clues or leads that could help me unravel this twisted mess. I navigated through the labyrinth of illicit sites and shady forums, searching for any trace of the auction listing that had sealed my fate. But the deeper I delved, the more I realized the enormity of my predicament. The dark web was like a maze with no exit, a digital realm where anonymity was a shield for the most depraved and dangerous individuals. I tried reaching out to others on the dark web, hoping that someone might have information or a way to help me. But all I encountered were more threats, more ominous messages from anonymous users who seemed to revel in my distress. With each passing day, the pressure mounted. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, couldn't focus on anything but the looming threat of being delivered to my buyer. It was like a countdown to my own personal hell, and I was running out of time. Desperation drove me to extreme measures. I reached out to hackers, hoping they could somehow erase my digital footprint and erase any trace of the auction. But that only led to more danger, more threats from those who lurked in the shadows of the deep web. Every moment felt like a battle for survival, a constant struggle to stay one step ahead of those who sought to claim me as their property. I lived in constant fear, watching my back at every turn, never knowing when the inevitable would happen. But through it all, a glimmer of hope remained. Deep down, I knew that I couldn't give up, couldn't surrender to the darkness that threatened to consume me. I had to fight, to claw my way out of this nightmare and reclaim my freedom. And so, with determination fueling my every move, I embarked on a journey of survival, a journey that would push me to the brink of my limits and beyond. It was a battle against unseen foes, a race against time, but I refused to let them win, not without a fight. So imagine this, you're constantly on edge, feeling like you're being watched every second of every day. That's what it was like for me after I accidentally sold myself on the deep web. I couldn't stay in one place for too long. Every time I thought I found a safe spot, I had to move again, like some kind of paranoid nomad. It was exhausting, always looking over my shoulder, wondering if today would be the day they caught up to me. And they were relentless. I got all sorts of creepy messages and threats, like they were playing games with me. It felt like they knew my every move before I even made it. I tried reaching out for help, but who could I trust? Everyone seemed like a potential threat, like they were working for the people chasing me. Sleep was a luxury I couldn't afford. Every noise, every shadow, sent my heart racing. It was like living in a constant state of fear and paranoia. But then, by some stroke of luck, I met someone else who was in the same boat. We formed a kind of alliance, sticking together and trying to outsmart our pursuers. It wasn't easy, and there were moments when I thought we were done for. But we kept pushing forward, fighting tooth and nail for our freedom. Looking back, it was a crazy, dangerous journey. But it also showed me how resilient we can be when we're pushed to the brink. Sometimes survival is just about refusing to give up, no matter how bleak things seem. So after weeks of dodging and running, me and my ally decided we couldn't keep doing that forever. We were tired of looking over our shoulders, tired of living in fear. It was time to take a stand, to face our pursuers head on and fight for our freedom. We knew it was risky, that there was a good chance we'd get caught, but we were willing to take that risk, to do whatever it took to break free from the nightmare we had found ourselves in. When the day of reckoning arrived, we were ready. We armed ourselves with whatever makeshift weapons we could find, preparing for a fight that would determine our fate. The confrontation was intense, like something out of a movie. We were outnumbered, outgunned, but we refused to back down. It was a battle for our lives, and we fought with everything we had. And you know what? We won. Against all odds, we came out on top, our enemies defeated and our freedom reclaimed. But victory came at a cost. We were bruised, battered, and emotionally drained. It was a harsh reminder of the dangers lurking in the dark corners of the internet. Still, as we dusted ourselves off and looked towards the future, there was a sense of pride and accomplishment. We had faced our fears and emerged stronger because of it. So now, we're moving forward, putting the nightmare of the deep web behind us. It's a chapter we'll never forget, a lesson learned the hard way. But we're survivors, and we're ready for whatever comes next. So, after everything was said and done, me and my buddy were left with a mix of feelings. On one hand, we were relieved to have escaped the whole deep web mess alive. But on the other hand, we couldn't shake off the trauma and paranoia that came with it. We had some serious talks about what happened and how we could move on from it. There was this constant fear that the people we tangled with online might still be out there, watching, waiting for a chance to mess with us again. But we decided to stick together and stay cautious. We knew the deep web wasn't something to mess around with lightly. It's like a dark alley. You never know what's lurking around the corner. Despite the lingering anxiety, we found a sense of strength in each other. Going through something like that bonds you in a way that's hard to explain. We had each other's backs, and that made all the difference. As we started to settle back into normal life, we made a promise to ourselves to be more careful online. It's easy to get caught up in the anonymity of the internet and forget that there are real dangers out there. But we're not dwelling on the past. We're focusing on the future, on living our lives without constantly looking over our shoulders. It's a work in progress, but we're getting there, one step at a time. So here we are, survivors of a wild ride through the dark side of the web, ready to face whatever comes our way with a newfound sense of resilience and caution. All right, folks, let me give you the lowdown on how my life took a wild turn. It all started on one of those nights when I was bored out of my mind, scrolling through the internet for something interesting. That's when I remembered hearing about the dark web, a shady part of the internet where things supposedly get real weird. So I decided to check it out using a VPN and Tor, which is like the secret entrance to this digital underworld. Let me tell you, the moment I landed on those dark web pages, it was like stepping into a different universe. Everything felt sketchy, like you're walking through a digital minefield. After clicking through a bunch of shady links and dodging pop-ups like a pro, I stumbled upon this site that offered a service I never thought I'd see. A girlfriend rental service. Yeah, you read that right. You could supposedly rent a girlfriend for a day or whatever. It sounded crazy, but also kind of intriguing in a messed up way. The site had these profiles of girls with pics and descriptions, almost like a dating app, but on steroids. People were leaving reviews like it was an Uber for girlfriends, talking about how great the experience was. It was all a bit surreal, but curiosity got the best of me. So, without thinking too much about it, I filled out the form, entered my card details, and clicked confirm. That night, I got an email saying my girlfriend would be ready for our hangout the next day. As I lay in bed, I couldn't shake this weird mix of excitement and nerves. Little did I know, this whole girlfriend rental thing was about to turn into a nightmare I never saw coming. The next day rolled around, and I found myself eagerly anticipating this so-called girlfriend experience. I mean, how bad could it be, right? I had seen those glowing reviews on the dark website, so I figured it might be a fun little adventure, even if it was a bit unconventional. I received another email with instructions on where and when to meet my rented companion. The location was a bit sketchy, a rundown motel on the outskirts of town. Red flags started waving in my mind, but I brushed them aside, chalking it up to the whole mysterious vibe of the dark web. I arrived at the motel, feeling a mix of excitement and apprehension. The door to the room was slightly ajar, and I cautiously pushed it open. Inside, I was greeted by a young woman who introduced herself as my rented girlfriend. She seemed nice enough at first glance, but there was something off about her demeanor. She was too friendly, too eager to please, almost like she was playing a role. But again, I ignored my instincts, thinking maybe this was just part of the whole experience. We spent the day together, doing typical couple stuff like going out for lunch, taking a stroll in the park, and watching a movie. It all felt surreal, like I was in some alternate reality where relationships could be rented by the hour. As the day progressed, I started noticing more strange things about my rented girlfriend. She would occasionally glance at her phone, typing away messages that seemed urgent. And whenever I asked about her personal life, she would quickly change the subject. But the strangest part came later that evening. We were back at the motel room, and she suddenly became very serious. She told me in a hushed tone that I needed to leave immediately and never contact her again. I was taken aback, wondering what I had done wrong. But before I could ask any questions, she shoved a wad of cash into my hand and practically pushed me out the door. Confused and a bit shaken, I left the motel and headed home, trying to make sense of the bizarre encounter. Little did I know, this was just the beginning of a nightmare that would turn my life upside down. After that strange encounter with my rented girlfriend, I couldn't shake off the feeling that something was seriously wrong. The whole experience left me with more questions than answers, and I couldn't ignore the nagging sense of unease that lingered in the back of my mind. I tried to brush it off as just a weird one-time thing, but deep down I knew there was more to the story. So, like any curious soul, I decided to do some digging. I started by revisiting the dark website where I had rented the girlfriend. I scrolled through the reviews again, looking for any clues or hints that might explain the bizarre behavior of my companion. That's when I stumbled upon a thread in the site's forum section. It was titled, "Beware of Rent-a-Girlfriend Scams," and the comments were filled with stories eerily similar to mine. People renting companions who turned out to be involved in some shady business. The more I read, the clearer it became that I had stumbled into something far more sinister than a simple girlfriend rental service. These girls were not just actors playing a role, they were part of a larger scheme, a web of deceit and danger that I had unwittingly become entangled in. My heart raced as I realized the gravity of the situation. I had no idea who these people were or what they were capable of. I had put myself in harm's way, all for the sake of a misguided adventure into the dark web. Fear and paranoia gripped me as I frantically searched for any information that could shed light on what was happening. But the more I delved into the dark corners of the internet, the more I realized how deep I had gotten myself into this mess. I couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, constantly looking over my shoulder, wondering if someone was watching me, waiting to strike. My once mundane life had turned into a living nightmare, and I didn't know how to escape it. But little did I know, things were about to take an even darker turn, plunging me into a world of danger and desperation that I never could have imagined. As time passed, my anxiety only got worse. I couldn't shake this feeling that someone was always watching me, waiting for the right moment to strike. Every little noise made me jump, and I started avoiding going out altogether. It was like I was stuck in a never-ending nightmare, and there was no way out. One night, while I was on my computer trying to find any clues that could help me understand what was going on, I got a message that sent chills down my spine. It simply said, "Time's running out," followed by some strange symbols. It was clear that whoever sent it knew where I was and wasn't afraid to make threats. I panicked and tried to figure out how to protect myself, but everything I tried seemed useless. I felt like I was trapped in a corner with no way to escape. It hit me hard that my little adventure into the dark web had turned into something terrifying, and I didn't know if I'd ever be safe again. So there I was, sitting in my room, feeling like a sitting duck, wondering how I had let things spiral out of control so quickly. The minutes dragged on, each one filled with dread and uncertainty about what would happen next. After weeks of living in fear, I knew I couldn't keep hiding forever. The creepy messages, the constant dread, it was all taking a toll on me. So, I decided to reach out for help. I talked to a cybersecurity expert and explained everything that had been happening to me. They listened carefully and gave me some practical advice on how to protect myself online. I followed their advice and took steps to secure my digital life. It was like going to battle with an invisible enemy, but I was determined to regain control. Over time, the threatening messages became less frequent, and I started to feel a bit safer. But just when I thought things were getting better, there was a knock on my door one evening. My heart skipped a beat as I wondered who it could be. To my relief, it was the cybersecurity expert I had talked to earlier. "We've traced the threats to a group of cybercriminals," they told me, their tone serious. "We're working with the authorities to shut them down, but you need to stay cautious." Their words were a sobering reminder that the danger hadn't completely passed, but I felt a sense of relief knowing that someone was taking action. I promised myself to stay vigilant and avoid any more risky online adventures. Looking back on everything, I've learned a valuable lesson about the dangers of the dark web. It might seem intriguing at first, but the risks are real. I'm grateful to have come out of it relatively unscathed, but it's a reminder to always think twice before venturing into the unknown corners of the internet.